So it sounds like you need to have some self-awareness.
Yes. Well, that's where the conscious creation comes in.
And there we are, full circle.
Because you're always creating your reality. Like I say, you're always creating it. And actually, I mean, that period where I went through a phase where I was over analyzing everything too much. And I realized that. So once I realized that, I then let everything go. It was actually an act, like I say, I chose to do it, but it was an act of rebellion. I thought, you know what, I'm stressing myself too much. I'm like trying to observe every aspect of my life here, and this is too much. So I just did whatever I wanted and ate whatever I wanted, drank if I wanted, smoked if I wanted, all that. And then do you know what I found out very quickly? Didn't want to do it. Or what them limits were.
Yeah, that makes sense.
So that's why that's when I started drinking again, because I just thought, I just want to. That's like rebellious side of it. I just want to now. I'm sick of all these rules I've put on myself. This is another form of like mind control I'm putting on myself. And I was like, I've got enough stress going on. I just want to let it go. And I did. And I just did what I wanted. And then I realized, I actually don't want to do this past a point where it's harmful. So I could then just enjoy it again. So it is a process. Like everything in life is like patterns. Everything's patterns and flows.
Yeah.
Right. So we have waves. Once you start getting in tune with these waves and the ebbs and flows and the cycles, I talk a lot about that. Everything happens in cycles like the seasons, and everything happens in ebbs and flows like the tides.
Yeah.
Once we can observe those movements, especially as women, I think men can be slightly different creatures.
Yeah.
I think a lot of this idea of discipline and stuff comes from men. And I do think it's important for men and women to tap into masculine and feminine energy. I think we're all capable of like we need to balance all that. That's an energetic thing. But men's bodies physically, their cycle is a daily cycle. You know, their daily testosterone cycle is generally a peak, 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 and it's quite consistent. Whereas women, we have a cycle. We have a monthly cycle. Then we have like life cycle, you know, and especially depending on your age you are and different things. We are just different creatures to men. So if you're trying to live like a man who gets up at a certain time every day, who has a very predictable cycle, and like I say, men probably can tolerate without the same sort of impact as it has for women, especially women at different stages in their life. They probably can do that discipline practicing. And I always take that in account when I was learning certain things, whether I was learning it from a man or a woman, because it feels important to me. And I've just noticed that difference in our energies, pardon me, and just how the energy flows and how the energy works. And I used to very much try and live like a man. That is a lot of the structures what we taught in a school. You get up at a certain time, you have to go to certain classes, you have to perform at a certain time, you eat at a certain time. You know what I mean? It's a very ordered, structured, masculine system we live in. And that does have a place. It's important, but it's not the only way to live. The other side is the feminine side, which is cycles. We have cycles, you know. If you try to like force a man to live in a feminine cycle, he would probably find it really bloody chaotic and like, do you know what I mean? It's finding what's for
As a
you.
woman, you're then wanting to develop a habit, say it's a meditation habit, and you're due on your period, you're knackered, you're grumpy, and actually do just want to eat chocolate. And you're like, no, I must sit and meditate for 40 minutes.
Oh, I've got a brilliant one. There's
But
always a way around, right? If you're creative. Meditation is a good example because there's loads of different ways you can meditate for a start. Doing something for 1 minute is better than not doing it at all. So if you know you really need to do this and you are committed, you're like, right, I'm going to learn this meditation practice. I've started it. I know it's beneficial, even though I know it's difficult at times, but I am going to do it. Eat the chocolate, but do it in a meditative way. If you're going to eat the chocolate, don't sit and beat yourself up about it and be like, oh, I'm going to eat the chocolate and not meditate. It's like, right, be present in that meditation with the chocolate. Really, really enjoy the chocolate. It's like a mindfulness form of meditation, isn't it? And if you've got one of those distractive minds like mine, like I did do a meditation practice. I'm trying to tap into that because it's quite a few years ago when I was really disciplined with it. But I used to use different types of meditation. So I suppose my way into meditation was through the spiritualist church, which is much more, which is a visualized, energetic form of meditation. So there was a lot of visual things there, and it was a lot about kind of opening up and expanding the third eye stuff. But actually, from that intuition, which is what I needed at the time, that was my way in. It led me into Buddhist meditation,
Ah.
which is very different. So Buddhist meditation is literally like, you're sitting. So I used to go to a lot of retreats, and that was kind of the only way for me. Not the only way, but I needed that. I needed that structure of going to a retreat with a wake up bell, with a crowd of people, to go and meditate for 40 minutes, because it's a lot harder to get up from your meditation when there's another 30 people sitting in meditation around you. You know what I mean? So I did that, and it was meditations like I chose this brilliant place called Danakosha, which is up in Scotland. I would recommend it. I love that place. I haven't been for years actually, but it was perfect for me. I think the first one I went to was photography and meditation. So because I at the time was a photographer, so it's like it was just brilliant because it was giving me that like creative bit of photography, and then it had meditation like built into the schedule. So we were following a schedule, but we're still being creative. So there's this balance of the masculine and feminine. Like you've got the structure, you've got the schedule, but you can still do something creative. So if you're going to do a meditation practice, say, do it every day, but you can still be flexible. If it's not working for you, if you're fighting with yourself and you can't do, and start small. There's no point trying to sit for 40 minutes every day if you've never sat still in your life. Sit for a minute the first week. Sit for a minute. Like, I did my minute. Yes. Like, always go for the win. Go what feels good. Sit for 2 minutes, then sit for 5 minutes, and sit for 10 minutes. Even if it's slow, it's better to make a bit of progress, I think, than none. And mix it up. So it's like, I'm going to meditate, especially once you get over that initial meditation's hard at the beginning. It's really hard if you've never done it. I'm remembering. And sitting still is really hard, especially if you're not used to sitting still and you've never done that. That's really hard. So if you can master that, being able to do it for 10 minutes, I think once you get past the 10-15 minute threshold, you can probably do most meditations, and you want to build that up to about a half an hour, I reckon. So if you can sit for, between 15 minutes and half an hour without literally like having a battle in yourself, then you've probably cracked meditation, and you can either expand it or whatever. I'm not saying you've solved, but you know what I mean? You've got the habit.
I know what you mean.
You can sit. But then you've got loads of flexibility with meditation. Are you going to do a visualization meditation? Are you going to do one where you're focusing on your breath? Like, some of the Buddhist ones, there's the Metta Bhavana, which is like, there's different ones you can do. So even if you're going to meditate every day, you can try different ones and see what works and what you like. Some weeks, like I say, especially like if you're a woman and you've got a cycle, some weeks you might be able to sit and literally do these really structured meditations every day for a week. And that in itself is a massive win. Like you'll love that, even if it's a bit hard, if you're kind of goal orientated and you actually get through that week and you've been like, I've done every day, I've done 15 minutes every day, or I've done half an hour every day or whatever. That's amazing. But then there's other weeks where that's too much, and you end up fighting with yourself. Once you're fighting with yourself,
Lots of variety. Do something, keep it small, or start small at least, and don't beat yourself up.
Yeah, I think if you're not gonna do something, right, just accept you're not gonna do it. Don't beat yourself up about it. And then as soon as you get the energy that you do want to do it, which will arise again, I think.
Yeah.
It always has for me. Some things I practiced and dropped and I've never done again. But then I've obviously, it either had a use at the time and now it doesn't. And it might come back around, it might not. Some things just don't work for certain people.
In my meditation practice certainly ebbs and flows. I practiced, I've never been to Danakosha. I used to go to Tara Loka, which is the same people.
Yeah, same people.
And I was very involved in Buddhist meditation, and I was, I used to go to the Newcastle Buddhist Center on a regular basis, and I was in the ordination process. I was very in it.
You're full in.
Yeah, and then I set up, I did breathworks training, I set up mindful therapies, I started teaching meditation, which I think got in the way of my personal practice, because it started being all about other people, and I lost the bit that was about me. and that's ebbed and flowed and ebbed and flowed, and then I had a baby, and
And that'll change everything.
that changed everything. So it is like I don't even have time to go to the toilet on my own a lot of the time, and she likes to come in with me, and she thinks she's helping, and I'm like, no, Mummy can do this on her own. So it's not that I don't practice, but I've had to change how I practice and learn to be okay with, at the moment, sometimes my practice is lying in bed just before I go to sleep and going through the things that I'm grateful for. And that's my mindfulness
And you
sometimes.
still did it.
And I've done it. And sometimes I'm going to count 10 breaths and I'm going to be really mindfully focusing on those 10 breaths. And then I might do something else, or I might be already asleep. And that's what I'm doing, and that's okay. And then sometimes, and eventually she'll leave home and I'll go
And
back
then
to
you might
my.
need it again. Yes, exactly. No,
I,
I think that's just how life is. Like I say, things cycle and they ebb and flow. And once you've got the practice in your muscle memory, you'll know when you need it.
yeah.
Do you
Yeah.
know what I mean? Like you'll know when you need it. And I do that as well. Like I don't have a strict meditation practice, but I do meditate on one way or another pretty much probably every day. Some days I maybe just don't. Um, but I know when I need it because my mind's getting messy again.
I think it's also about getting excited about it. And I think that's part of what this process is, talking to people about their practice. And that, I thought that this was going to be a comedy podcast where I was going to just like be a bit dismissive about people, a bit cynical about people. But actually, I've just been really inspired by everyone.
Yeah.
It gets me really excited about, yeah, I'm going to start journaling. And I am kind of connecting with my intentions and connecting with myself, and and I think it's really hard to have any sort of ongoing practice if it doesn't excite us.
Well, exactly. And you just made us have that thought there. And I was like, well, if we get too much into a practice or something and we can't laugh at it, we've lost our sense of humor about it, we're taking it too seriously, or we're attaching too much to it, like, oh, I have to do this, or this is going to change my life, or anything like that. They kind of, it's too much. You put too much pressure on yourself. Like we're just human, like we're just having this experience. It's not supposed to be perfect. It's always good. And I always found anyway, I don't know about you, but I think the universe, whatever you want to call it, has a very ironic sense of humor. And if you start to get too serious about anything, if you start to think you know anything, or you're too clever, or you take anything too seriously, it'll just go, you reckon? Have this experience. And you like literally just have to learn, like, oh no, I know nothing. I'm a fool. Life is a dream.
Yeah.
That's just what I've learned. And that's why I just go with the ebb and flow. I just take the energy or whatever as it comes, and I'll just sometimes we want to do stuff, sometimes we don't want to do stuff, and I just have to trust in it. And the more I've trusted in it, actually, you can say I prefer my life. I'm not going to say it's better or worse. It definitely is better, but I prefer my life. Do you know what I mean? I like myself. I like my life. I like how I live, even when it's hard, even if things aren't as fun or as good as we'd like. I know I'm doing my best. Like, and that doesn't have to be perfect. Like, your best doesn't have to be perfect. Your best is just, I've made a choice to do that and I accept it, and that's good enough for me. I'm fine. I'm happy with whatever consequences come out of doing this. You know what I mean? And just see what happens. The
Any
creators.
any final thoughts before we go?
Oh, I, we've talked about quite a lot, haven't we? No, I think yeah, that's probably the best place to end it. Like we're always creating. If we can go with how things are and respond to what's happening, I think you're probably on a winner. Like I always find that like the more I'm struggling with life, it's generally because I'm trying to control too much, or I'm being too hard on myself, and yeah, and it makes life less enjoyable. So follow what feels better, even if it's something maybe it's more difficult. Sometimes what feels better is to dive into a feeling, or you know do something we think we shouldn't, like eating the chocolate or whatever, some of the stuff we've been talking about. But you'll know when it's enough, and when it's enough, put it down and follow what feels better the next time, and just be creative, make mistakes, try it, see how it goes.
Thank you so much for joining me. It's been
Yeah, thank you. It's been a really nice chat.
thank you so much.
Bye.